The F-35 is a turkey. It can't run, it can't turn, it can't climb. It is the most expensive failure in the history of the United States military. Remember those headlines? Go back to 2015, 2016, even 2020. You couldn't open a defense blog or turn on the news without seeing an expert tearing this plane apart. We were told it lost a mock dogfight to an F-16 with fuel tanks on its wings. We were told the helmet was too heavy and would snap the pilot's neck. We were told the software had more bugs than a swamp in the Northern Territory. For a decade, the narrative was set in stone. The West had bet its future on $1 trillion lemon. Australia, by buying 72 of them, had been scammed. But today, in late 2025, the Royal Australian Air Force has officially declared final operational capability for the F-35A. The testing is done. The training wheels are off. And the scoreboard is finally lit up. And guess what? The critics weren't just wrong. They were spectacularly, embarrassingly wrong. They were judging a 21st century sniper by the rules of a 20th century knife fight. While the media was obsessing over turning circles and gun pods, the F-35 was quietly rewriting the laws of physics and the doctrine of air warfare. This isn't just a plane that works. This is a machine that is currently slaughtering the opposition in war games with a ruthlessness we haven't seen since the F-15 first flew. Welcome to Doctrine of War. Today we are looking at the greatest redemption arc in military aviation history. The thesis for this episode is simple. The F-35 failure narrative was the greatest deception of the modern age. Whether it was bad reporting, misunderstanding the technology, or deliberate disinformation, the world was sold a lie. The truth is that the F-35 has matured into the apex predator of the skies. It is the most lethal, survivable, and connected fighter jet ever built. And for Australia, a middle power sitting on the edge of the most contested ocean on Earth, this jet isn't a liability. It is the only reason we are still in the game. We are going to break down the hard data, the kill ratios, the cost per flight hour, and the sensor fusion capabilities to prove why the haters were wrong and why China is terrified of what this lemon can actually do. Let's address the elephant in the room first, the dogfight. This was the primary weapon of the critics. In 2015, a leaked report claimed an F-35A lost a visual range engagement to an F-16D. The internet exploded. It's sluggish, they screamed. It's a flying brick. Here is what they didn't understand. That test was designed to find the limits of the flight control laws of an early software build. It was like judging a Formula One car's performance while it's still in the wind tunnel with a speed limiter on. But more importantly, it missed the entire point of the aircraft. If an F-35 pilot finds themselves in a turning dogfight with a Sukhoi 35 or AJ-20, something has gone terribly, terribly wrong. Means they have failed. The entire design philosophy of the F-35 is that there is no dogfight. The critics were obsessed with energy maneuverability theory, the idea that the plane with the best thrust-to-weight ratio and the tightest turn radius wins. That was true in 1945. It was true in 1970. It is not true in 2025. In 2025, the winner is the pilot who shoots first. The F-35 is a sniper. It is designed to remain invisible to enemy radar, stealth, while seeing everything, sensors. An F-35 pilot does not merge with the enemy. They detect the enemy formation at 150 kilometers. They classify the targets. They launch a salvo of AIM-260 or AIM-120D missiles from 100 kilometers away. And then they turn around and go home for tea. The enemy pilot, sitting in his super-maneuverable, thrust-vectoring Su-35, dies without ever seeing the F-35 on his radar. He dies doing a cool backflip that nobody will ever see because he has been vaporized by a missile fired from a ghost. The critics were judging a sniper rifle by its ability to be used as a club. They looked at the F-35 and asked, "Can it box?" The designers looked back and said, "Why would I box him when I can shoot him in the head from the next zip code?" This fundamental misunderstanding of information dominance versus kinetic performance is why the public was misled. The F-35 is not a fighter jet in the traditional sense. It is an information vacuum cleaner. Its APG-81 AESA radar is the most powerful electronic warfare jamming pod in the world, disguised as a radar. Its distributed aperture system, DAS. Those 6 cameras embedded in the skin means the pilot can look through the floor of the cockpit and see the ground. There are no blind spots. In the old days, a pilot spent 80% of their brainpower just trying to fly the plane and manage the radar. Is that a bogey? Is that a friendly? Where is my wingman? In the F-35, the computer does all of that. It fuses the data from the radar, the cameras, the electronic support measures, and the data links into a single simple picture. Green dots are friends. Red diamonds are bad guys. This allows the pilot to stop being a driver and start being a tactician. While the enemy pilot in his superior dogfighter is frantically flipping switches and managing sensors, the F-35 pilot is calmly prioritizing targets and managing the battle. The lemon myth relied on the idea that the plane was broken. The reality is that the plane was just smarter than the people criticizing it. If you are enjoying this breakdown of how the F-35 silenced its critics with raw firepower and data, hit that like button and subscribe to Doctrine of War. We are dedicated to stripping away the media hype and giving you the strategic reality of the modern battlefield. Your support helps us keep the record straight. The scoreboard. Theory is nice, but war is about results. Let's look at the scoreboard. Since the RAAF and the USAF started fielding the F-35 in large numbers, the data from major exercises like Red Flag in Nevada and Pitch Black in Northern Australia has been consistent. And it has been devastating for the Red Air, the aggressors simulating Russian or Chinese jets. The kill ratios being reported are not 2-to-1. They are not 5:1. They are consistently 15:1 and often exceeding 20:1. Let that number sink in. For every one F-35 that is shot down in a simulation, it kills 20 enemy aircraft. In a recent exercise, a squadron of novice F-35 pilots, fresh out of training, went up against a squadron of veteran F-16 pilots playing the role of the enemy. The veterans were wiped out. They didn't even know they were being targeted until their warning receivers screamed that they were dead. One RAF pilot described it like this: "It's like playing a video game with God mode turned on. I can see them. They can't see me. I can shoot them. They can't shoot back. It almost feels unfair." This is the reality of 2025. The Red Air pilots, flying advanced fourth-generation jets that simulate the Su-35 or the J-11, are finding themselves completely impotent. They are dying in the first shot phase of the engagement. The F-35 stealth works. It reduces the detection range of enemy radars to a fraction of what it is for a normal jet. This allows the F-35 to slip into the gaps in the enemy air defense network. It allows them to get close enough to drop a JDAM on a surface-to-air missile (SAM) site, or close enough to fire an AMRAAM at a high-value AWACS plane. The critics said stealth was overrated. They said, VHF radar can see stealth. Sure, a low-frequency radar might know something is in the sky, but it can't generate a weapons-grade track. It can't guide a missile. Knowing an F-35 is somewhere in a 50-mile cube of sky doesn't help you when a missile is already tracking your engine heat. But the kill ratio is only half the story. The real secret sauce of the F-35, the thing that justifies the $1 trillion, is sensor fusion. We need to talk about the quarterback concept. In the past, an Air Force had specialized planes. You had fighters, bombers, and reconnaissance planes. The F-35 is all of them at once. But more importantly, it makes everyone else better. Through the MADL Multifunction Advanced Data Link, a flight of 4 F-35s shares data instantly. If one plane sees a target, they all see it. They effectively become a single organism with 4 heads. But it goes beyond the flight. An RAAF F-35 can spot a Chinese destroyer over the horizon. It doesn't have to attack it. It can beam that targeting data silently to a Hobart-class destroyer sailing 200 kilometers away. The destroyer fires a missile, guided by the F-35's eyes. Or the F-35 can spot a tank column and beam the coordinates to an Army HIMARS battery. This is what final operational capability really means. It means the F-35 is now fully plugged into the Australian Defence Force's nervous system. It is the eyes of the fleet and the brain of the army. The critics looked at the F-35 as a standalone duelist. Can it beat a Su-57 one-on-one? That is the wrong question. The right question is, can a networked force of F-35s, destroyers, and drones dismantle an integrated air defense system? The answer, proven in wargame after wargame, is a resounding yes. While the Russian Su-57 is a lone wolf, a powerful airframe with questionable avionics and limited production numbers, the F-35 is a pack animal. It hunts in a network, and the network is undefeated. The scoreboard of 2025 isn't just about kills, it's about survival. In high-threat environments where older jets like the F/A-18 Super Hornet would suffer massive casualties, the F-35 survives. It accomplishes the mission and brings the pilot home. That is the only metric that truly matters. The price tag flip. Now let's hit the critics where they felt strongest, the wallet. It's too expensive. It's a money pit. We could buy 3 Super Hornets for the price of 1 F-35. This was true in 2010. It was arguably true in 2015. It is false in 2025. Something incredible happened while the critics were complaining. Economies of scale kicked in. Because the US, Australia, Japan, the UK, and half of Europe bought into the program, Lockheed Martin was able to ramp up production to massive levels. Today, the flyaway cost of a new F-35A is hovering around $82 million US. Now let's look at the alternatives. A new F-15EX Eagle II, a non-stealthy 4th-generation jet based on a 1970s design, costs nearly $90 million. A Eurofighter Typhoon? Over $100 million. A French Rafale? Depending on the package, also pushing $100 million. Do the math. Australia is buying the most advanced, stealthy 5th-generation fighter in the world for less than the price of the older, non-stealthy jets that critics said we should buy instead. We got the Ferrari for the price of the Toyota. The critics failed to predict the death spiral of legacy aircraft. As production lines for older jets shut down, parts get more expensive. As the F-35 line speeds up, parts get cheaper. Furthermore, the cost per flight hour, CPFH, the golden metric for sustainment, has plummeted. In the early days, it was $40,000 plus an hour. Through efficiency programs and better logistics, that number has dropped significantly, bringing it within striking distance of legacy fleets. There is another economic angle that the lemon narrative missed: Australian industry content. Australia isn't just buying these jets, we are helping to build them. Every single F-35 flying in the world today, whether it's American, Japanese, or Israeli, contains parts made in Australia. Companies like Marand and Victoria make the vertical tails. Quickstep and NSW makes composite panels. This program has injected billions into the Australian high-tech manufacturing sector. If we had listened to the critics and bought the Super Hornet or the Eurofighter, we would have been buying a finished product off the shelf. By buying into the F-35 partnership, we bought a seat at the table of the global supply chain. This is strategic industry. It means Australia has a sovereign capability to maintain and upgrade these jets. We aren't just customers, we are partners. The critics painted a picture of Australia being ripped off by the US military-industrial complex. The reality is that Australia secured the deal of the century. We locked in the lowest price for the highest capability, all while securing 50 years of work for our own aerospace engineers. The universal soldier. Finally, let's talk about the strategic implication that keeps Chinese generals awake at night. It's not just the plane, it's who is flying it. In 2025, during Exercise Talisman Sabre, something remarkable happened. It was a detail buried in the press releases, but for those in the know, it was an earthquake. US Air Force pilots landed their F-35s at RAAF Base Tyndall. They jumped out. RAF pilots jumped in. And they flew the jets. Later, RAF maintenance crews rearmed and refueled US Marine Corps F-35Bs. This is interchangeability. Not just interoperability flying together, but true interchangeability. Because the F-35 is a global standard, an Australian pilot can fly an American jet. A British mechanic can fix a Japanese jet. A Dutch parts depot can supply an Australian squadron. This is the concept of the universal soldier. Think about the nightmare this creates for an adversary. China might think they can target RAF bases to knock Australia out of the fight. But if RAF bases are destroyed, Australian pilots can deploy to Guam and fly US jets. If US carriers are hit, US Marine pilots can operate from Australian highways using RAF logistics. It creates a shell game of strategic depth. The Western alliance is becoming a single, fluid force. China cannot do this. A Pakistani pilot cannot jump into a Chinese J-20 and fly it into combat. Russia cannot share its Su-57s with Iran in a seamless network. Their systems are proprietary, clunky, and incompatible. The F-35 program has created a NATO of the sky, a standardized, unified force that spans the globe. This brings us back to the pride hook. Australia didn't buy a dud. We bought the future. We are the second nation in the world, after the United States, to declare full operational capability for a significant fleet. We are leading the pack. While Canada dithered for years before finally caving in and buying the F-35, and while Germany wasted decades on Tornadoes before finally ordering the F-35, Australia was there at the start. We took the risk. We endured the teething problems. We ignored the media hysteria. And now we are reaping the rewards. We have the most advanced air force in the Southern Hemisphere. We have a kill ratio that makes a mockery of any potential adversary. And we are plugged into the most powerful military alliance in human history. The critics were wrong because they lacked vision. They looked at the spreadsheets of 2015 and saw costs. The strategists looked at the threat environment of 2030 and saw necessity. You cannot fight a 5th-generation war with 4th-generation weapons. You cannot survive in the missile age with a plane that glows on radar. The F-35 was never a choice, it was an imperative. The trillion-dollar disaster is dead. Long live the lightning. The F-35 has matured from a troubled adolescent into a lethal professional. It has proven itself in the cold math of kill ratios and the hard reality of economics. For the Australian taxpayer, the message is clear. You got your money's worth. You didn't buy a lemon, you bought a legend. You bought the only machine capable of guaranteeing that the skies over Australia remain sovereign. The critics will eventually find something else to complain about, probably the 6th-generation fighters currently in development. But as the F-35 fleet patrols the edge of Australian airspace, invisible and all-seeing, the silence of the critics is drowned out by the sound of air dominance. Thanks for watching Doctrine of War. Do you think the F-35 has finally proven its worth, or are there still lingering issues that worry you? Let us know in the comments below. Stay sharp, stay real.